to online course design, focus on structure and interface. Go ahead.
All right.
Thanks, Beth.
Welcome. Thanks, Beth. Welcome, everyone. I'm Penny Ralston-Berg. I'm a senior designer with the Penn State World Campus and also an instructional design consultant. And Heather.
I'm Heather. I'm an instructional designer at Worsham College of Mortuary Science in Wheeling, Illinois, just next to Chicago.
Thanks. And welcome to our online course design, focus on structure and interface. If you happen to just come from the other session about templates, we're going to slide right into consistency as a benefit. So if you're interested in this, if you didn't check out that session, be sure to hit that recording because it was a good session as well. So just to get started, we can all agree that intuitive design, intuitive navigation, clear expectations are all good things to have in an online course. But really, how purposeful are we about designing the structure and interface of our courses? So that's why Heather and I thought it would be good to talk about kind of standards and different kinds of things we could talk about structure. So today we'll discuss the benefits of supportive structure. And we'll also share a lot of examples of purposefully designed courses. And this presentation is also available online. And I think Heather added the link to the chat already. So if you want to follow along, our presentation is the handout. So Heather is really great at putting this RISE presentation together. So everything we're going to talk about and all the examples we're going to show are all available to you through the RISE. So, okay, so we start out with program standards, right? They benefit everyone, right? Standards, when we talk about program standards, we mean design and structural elements that are consistent across all courses in an online program. And so if we think about the benefits of that, why would we do program-wide standards? Which in my mind is why wouldn't we? But why would we do program standards? Because it gives students a consistent experience, right? The faculty who rotate through teaching of the courses or who may be taking over the teaching of an existing course that they didn't create, right? It helps them. It also helps faculty who are doing new courses, right? They have a starting point and not really starting from scratch. And our support staff too, because if things are organized in a similar way, things are placed in a consistent way, then support staff can easily troubleshoot with a student or a faculty member because they already know kind of where everything is. So these key questions we have here really center on how supportive the learning environment is, right? Things that we can think about that would help us make a more consistent and a more supportive learning environment. And we can, I think we'll show the graphic there. So what our goal really is we want the technology and the LMS to become transparent. So the navigation about the course or courses within the program, it becomes automatic. And really the focus of the courses becomes learning and not kind of looking for stuff, right? So we're hoping to help that technology become transparent. So then the question becomes, how can we make the best use of limited student time and limited faculty time, right? So if we're talking about how we want to structure courses and if we want to apply standards to courses, how can we get to that point where it's consistent and it's making the best use of everyone's time?
Yeah, we saw even in the prior, anyone who was in Angela Mudispa's course maps session, in the chat, Heather was saying, oh, consistency is key. It is the key component of quality. And we're finding that, consistency in course design is a quality measure. So yeah, a well-designed structure and course interface makes the best use of everyone's time, as Penny said. And, you know, I'm sure that all of you, like, stay in the chat. Have you ever been in a course that just didn't seem to have any sort of flow or structure, and you were just swimming, treading water, trying to figure out how to get through it? I think we've all been there, where we're in, we enter a course and we're like, oh no, what happened? It's like a bomb went off. Yeah, and there's like 6 font changes.
Ironically, the one that I thought of was an instructional design course about how to teach me how to, yeah.
Ouch, that's so painful. So
irony.
Yeah, it's frustrating, as you know, as educators, as learners, as faculty, as designers, to be in that space where you're looking at it and you're like, I can't make heads or tails of what I'm looking at, and it hurts my eyes.
Right. Yeah. And then if we look at this graphic here, this is a high level view of program design. And so really what we're talking about is the design inconsistent to the point where it requires users to learn a new system for each course they experience within the program. So each course has navigation and getting started learning curve, right? I have to learn how to use this system each time I take a course. Or if you think about it in the lower example, if we have a more consistent design, then can users learn the system once, and then they can quickly move forward when starting a new course. We don't have that time spent. And then I just want to say about this too, because, well, we can go to the next section and then we'll address the T word, right?
Yeah, we'll acknowledge that elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we really strove when we were designing the program here at Worsham College to make sure that the courses have a shared structure. So it's not reinventing the wheel every single time they open a new course, because all of the learners in our program are in a cohort and they're all full-time learners, because we have a very, very structured program for the mortuary science students. So it's, instead of having, you know, apples, oranges, and watermelons, they just have different flavors of apples for every single course experience. And we find that that's really beneficial in terms of eliminating a lot of the learner frustration, especially since the majority of our learners are, you know, new to online learning. Very few, the minority of our students have prior online learning experience. So there's that elephant. Everyone wants to scream like academic freedom when they hear the word template.
Yeah, that's usually the reaction. So yeah, so in terms of structure and consistency, what we're talking about here, it is not how to teach or what to teach, or saying it must have these activities or it must have these assessments. That's all related to the instruction and the learning. That's not what we're talking about here. So what we're talking about with the structure and consistency is the location of commonly used elements. Could they all be in the same place? Could we use consistent naming conventions so things are called the same thing in different courses? Could we agree on an order of the menu items so it's not a slightly different navigation system in each course? So another way to think about this is the bucket that the instruction is being carried out to the student in. So we're not talking about the instruction or learning or the activities or the teaching that happens inside the bucket. We're just talking about the environment and the container that carries the courses.
And we were lucky. I see some people are, you know, obviously we love QM course maps because it puts all the QM gravy on it. But we've been lucky to work with, you know, pretty standardized templates to influence how we map out courses, how we design courses, how we design the course shells, the course modules, even the course pages. So it's nice that we have that type of organizational structure baked in before the course is built.
Yeah, and this this course map really represents all the possible components that a course could have. And so it's not saying the course must have everything that's on this chart, but it's saying these are all the possible components. These are the labels we've agreed on. And this is the location about how they're nested one within the other. And the type of information, for example, on the overview page, we're agreeing that an overview page should have an introduction of some kind, objectives of some kind, readings and required work assignments listed there. So the students have a little mini checklist, right? The overview becomes their mini interface for that module.
Just quick before you go on, someone's asking if they can steal, appropriate, reuse, or recycle that map.
Yeah, of course. And there's a link there out to the article. So all the content we're talking about today was in a publication that Heather and I co-authored. And so you can go get high resolution, right, pictures and use it and cite it, and you'll be good. Yep. Chuck says he knows he can steal that.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. So for this example here, structure can be applied at many levels, right? So we've been talking about program level design, but also within a course, within a module. You could have a sequence within a module, a page, even items on a page have some type of structure to them to help their understanding.
And as we talked about before, we were very lucky to work with Penny from the beginning part of the program planning process in the design and the different elements that we wanted. And the underlying, goal was always quality. How can we create a quality learning experience that made sense to our learners, that felt holistic, that felt really thoughtful? And that was really what guided our hand while we were designing and building the whole way through. So we wanted to have a really clear organizational structure, make sure that they were able to easily navigate across different courses to reduce their time with the learning curve of learning the new course and any cognitive load they experienced within the courses. And in terms of course level, thinking about different course standards, making sure that we're being really clear and transparent and consistent in how we're explaining different elements of a course. That just helps, cut out that cognitive load as well for the learner. So they're not having to think about, well, Heather or Professor Braatz calls them knowledge checks, but Professor Ralston-Berg calls them exams. Yeah, whatever we can do to just make it as transparent and normal as possible really helped in terms of getting them where we needed to be faster.
Yeah, and here are just a few examples of what a module level structure might look like. These are fairly traditional courses. If you have a project-based course, then you may have the modules be parts of the overall work that students are creating. There is no magic one way, like the right way to structure a course. We just need it to be consistent, right? Once you pick a way to organize things, then be consistent with it.
I'm loving the activity in the chat as well. And this, I have to agree with Lauren, this did really, really help in terms of the rapid course design for our institution. We started building courses 6 months prior to the first semester started in fall of 2019. And once we launched that fall semester, we had to continuously keep on building them because we had to open the next semester in 15 weeks. So it was a really rapid turnaround in terms of building the program from the ground up. But the help that we received with our consultants with the idea of using these quality templates and making sure that was baked in helped save a ton of time, because otherwise all of our instructors, with the exception of our adjunct faculty who had prior learning experience, they would just be winging it.
Yeah.
So even in terms of how we how we think about how the assignments appear on the page. If they are in chronological order, so whatever's due first, in that section of the module, those things really helped get our learners up to date faster. We won't play this particular video, but this was a really influential reference for our paper and for this presentation about holistic program design and learning experience design. So highly recommend if you wanted to do that on your own after the presentation. It's only 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's a good watch. We recommend 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 would watch again.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and here's just another example, the getting more granular of page structure and layout. So if you have the same type of discussion recurring in a class, or you have the same type of essay written assignment occurring in the class, just making sure that you're using the headers and the labels consistently, and then providing that consistent structure each time it appears. So students know, oh, this is one of those, I know what I'm supposed to do. They get into the rhythm of it. So again, just consistent naming conventions, very helpful.
Yeah, all of our pages, if we say, okay, this course is going to have a different way that we talk about discussions or name the discussions in this course, that's another thing that they're going to have to learn for that particular learning space. But if all of them are module, number, topic, then we're good. So
Shout out to
discussion.
Abigail. We're not making her sleepy.
Oh, good. Hopefully you all have eaten lunch by now, depending on where you are. When I described this concept of standards in structure and interfaces, my husband was like, oh, well, yeah, you wouldn't make the students learn how to drive like every type of car, manuals, automatic, the one where the wheels on the other side of what they're used to, just so they could pass their driver's ed test. That would be crazy. And I agree. Because really, we just want them to be able to get in and start learning. We don't want them to have to learn how to use that particular tool. So consistency in design totally solves that problem for us.
Yeah. And there's just another example of the items within the page. Are there consistent things? Are you using the same type of instructions? You want assignments to be submitted in the same type of way. Then there are little things that you can reuse just to be consistent. And it also saves time because you don't have to rewrite the instructions every time. So win for the student, win for the faculty developer as well. So then our next section here, since we are at a QM conference, right? So does structure support QM standards? Yes, of course it does. And I'm not just talking about standard 1.2 with the purpose and structure of the course. We've included several examples in here, and we can flip through them quickly of, course overview and introduction. Does the student know where the getting started section is? Right, you need to have one, but is it obvious where to get started? And then can they easily find the components? Right, so there are some basic standards that you could address there.
I'll do a brief tour of our welcome pages and all the courses.
Each of the courses has a course welcome page. On this page, which is both the first page of the syllabus as well as the first announcement that they receive at the start of the class, the student will see a welcome video from their instructor. Each of these pages shares a similar structure of the welcome video, steps to get started, and the course modules. This gives them an introduction to their professor and an overview of the course. Having similar structure across all of the courses quickly acclimates our students to the courses.
That one was a real quick one.
That was a quick one. Yeah, good example though. And then here's another example where you think about the relationship between learning objectives and structure. We're thinking about, are the objectives prominently located? Can students find them to be able to use them? And do they see how those objectives relate to other components of the course?
For each module, there's a module overview, learning activities, and assignments. On the module overview page, the instructor has provided an overview, either in video and/or text format, of what competencies will be taught during the module. Module overview videos from the instructor help to build a sense of presence, while also helping the learners gain some direction. This gives them the tools necessary to prepare to learn when they start the module and ensure that they understand what given objectives are for that module. Since all the module overview pages share a similar structure, the learner can easily find the learning objectives from here. These objectives are aligned with the assessments that were created during the course mapping and development phases. We use the Quality Matters course map as the basis for our course development process. Anytime a learner needs to reaffirm what they will be learning for a specific module, they can refer to this overview page to see what the objectives are that are addressed and what they can expect to be assessed on during this module. This also aligns with what assessments they have and what they will be completing for the module assignments.
Great. And then, and then also for General Standard 3 assessment and measurement, we're talking about being able to find things, right? So the grading policy, where is it? Can they find the criteria? Is the criteria clear? Is the sequence of the assessments clear? Like, I know I need to do the readings before I do the quiz, or I need to do some individual work before I go into the discussion. So just making sure that that's clear. And then also the same with the materials and learning activities. Do they have enough structure to be able to be successful at those things?
Yeah, we have a standalone like syllabus module that really gives them the same feel whenever they enter the course. It's the very top module in Canvas. So they get that kind of crash course on what this course is about, and each of the pages are similarly structured. So they know, okay, I know that if I go to the student and faculty expectations page in the syllabus, which is at the top of my Canvas course, I know what to expect from this course.
Oh, and someone's asking how long the RISE presentation will be available. I don't think we're planning on taking it down.
Nope.
So,
until you get tired of it.
Right. Yay.
Oh, we also included a sharing and question forum for the students to get peer feedback and peer support. So if I'm up at 2 a.m. and I post here and I say, hey guys, were you able to get that RISE presentation from Professor Braatz to open? They'll say, no, it's down because she forgot to put the right link in. You know, they can chat and help each other, and this instructor can monitor it, so they can also provide support here. You know, each of the discussions have a similar structure and format in terms of the heading styles, like we saw in the page structure in the previous section. So you can kind of go through and see how we trying to make it as easy as possible for learners to figure out where the interactions are and what can be expected of them within the course. Same goes for the QM standards 6.2 and 6.3. What technology do I need to be successful is in that syllabus on the required technology page.
Yep. And the good learner support, right? we're all in the QM review. We're all looking for it. Where is it? So making sure that students can actually easily find the support that's available to them is very important for the structure. So like having something like that, like an important link section or something like that, make sure they're obvious, not just that they're in the syllabus somewhere because QM says we need to have them.
And it's helpful for us when we create new courses to have this, you know, standardized structure. So we really cut out a lot of the course build time for new and refreshed courses. Like if there's an instructor change, because everything's, you know, baked into that template with the syllabus module at the top and how we approach that.
Yeah, and the accessibility and usability to just that anytime you have a technology, if you're providing transcripts or additional files in different formats, make sure they're easily found from the source material. It's easy to find that alternative while you're right there on the page.
Yeah. And one note, I know Brian and Robert were talking in the chat about the Canvas provided syllabus link. In the HTML, there's just a button that Penny plugged in that says, take me to the syllabus module, please. So when they go on that, before they see the dates that are auto-populated from the Canvas due dates, they can click on that and go to the very first module. Hopefully they've already checked it out if they've gotten that far down on the navigation list, which all of the Canvas navigations on that course level navigation are the same throughout all the courses.
The reason we use the syllabus module, because as you all know, the syllabus can get very long and it can be difficult for students to navigate through all of that material. And so using a syllabus module with individual items of syllabus related material in a syllabus module, we feel is easier for students to go back and find something if they need it and actually flip through it at the beginning of the course, because it's not one big long document.
We also have syllabus quizzes, so it's in their best interest to check it out.
Syllabus quiz.
Big fan.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention really quickly that there's some people talking about Canvas and different LMSs. So yes, you are correct. These examples are from a Canvas course, but good design is good design. And the kinds of things we're talking about could be applied to any LMS. There's no Canvas specific, Canvas only information here.
So in terms of this, how we put this into action and how we got better at having a focus on structure and interface through each iteration. The first run of the courses, we were looking for it to be, a minimally viable product, because we were rapidly designing the courses consecutively. Every time that we ended a semester, we needed to have all 6 courses ready to roll out for the students to continue in the program. So the first run of one of our courses, the chemistry course, the students felt it was a little bit unstructured, where they were having that same feeling that you might have had in an unstructured course, where there was just an overwhelm of information. The student evaluations were pretty bleak, and we'll talk about that as well as show you some examples from that course next.
We believe in continuous iterative improvement. In our first iteration of this chemistry course, we had a unique course structure that did not match our other courses in the program. The modules spanned multiple weeks, and every learning activity was separated onto its own page. So, for example, this standalone video of converting units with conversion factors is just one page with one video on it, and then this page just has another video on it about converting units with multiple conversion factors. It became rather burdensome to navigate the large amount of learning materials in this course, and the learners let us know about this in their course evaluation feedback. Our learners described the course as time-consuming, unclear, and extremely difficult to digest. They found the content overwhelming and were frequently frustrated. They stated, "I had to scroll through it and try to guess what we were supposed to do based on the lessons. I had to become resourceful since I had no clue what I was doing, and if I couldn't figure the course out, I just used the materials provided, which happened a lot. It would be nice if you could simplify things to make it easier to understand." We took this to heart. In short, they had a really bad experience with this overwhelming course. This course was at a dismal 64% satisfaction rating, although this score was greatly bolstered by the learners' appreciation of the excellent instructors. We decided to restructure the chemistry course to better match the structure of the other courses in the program. No other changes to the content were made, only the structure and interface were redesigned. We broke up multi-week modules into their own modules and combined like activities onto single pages. For example, all videos having to do with using the periodic table now existed on a single page. We also matched the naming conventions to all the other courses in the program. After these structural changes, the course evaluation went from 64% to 98% student satisfaction.
And the students were much happier.
Yeah, they let us know that they were happy with the teaching methods and retained quite a bit, which is our whole goal.
So back to promoting standards across courses. As we've discussed today, the structure and consistency across the program can benefit the students, right, as well as the faculty, and also supports QM standards. So we've provided all of these examples. And I'll mention again, just there's no one perfect course structure. There was also some comments in the chat that you might have different options based on what LMS you're using, which is very true. So you may have different kinds of ways to structure things depending on the LMS that you're using. So you still need to address the consistency and kind of doing this same things the same way, presenting the same information with the same naming conventions and that kind of thing. But again, there's no one perfect thing, and we've provided a lot of examples here. So what we'd like you to think about is that you have the RISE presentation here, and if you want the more formal source of the content, you can also link out to the article and download the article. So you have that to share with faculty or team members or whoever would be interested in structure. So what we're saying is we'd like you to think of this as no really one right way, but a lot of different things that are related to structure that you could consider your structure buffet. So mix and match and find what works for you, and that will help you kind of integrate that structure. And then I'll also mention when you're picking and choosing, you may need to get buy-in, right, for some of this, because there is the T word, right? We're not going to get around the T word, and it just takes time for people to see the benefits sometimes. And so what we recommend, if you're trying to get buy-in, really focusing on where the time-saving elements are for course development and for student time spent during the class, where the cognitive load benefits are of having students be able to focus on the instruction and the learning rather than looking for things or trying to do that. And then where you would like students to spend their attention, right? Because as course designers and providers, we could say, well, the students can figure it out. Everything's in there. They're educated people. They're taking these online courses. Of course they could figure it out. But as course designers and providers, should we make them figure it out? Or could we have a nice design that's intuitive, that has consistency across the program, so they don't need to figure it out and they can take all that time spent and focus on learning?
Penny, we've got a great question. Ooh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Great question about the use of LMS course template. Tim asks, are there any disadvantages other than trying to get the buy-in from the faculty? What pitfalls should be avoided if we're using a template?
That's a great question. I would say just make sure that it's easy to use on both ends of the process, meaning that it has to be easy to set up and easy to develop a course with, just as it needs to be easy to use on the user end. Because if you're creating a template that's great for students on the user end and great for faculty to teach it, but it takes a considerable amount of time to set up and get everything going, then you're really not saving a lot of time. So I would say address both ends of that process and be sure, especially with Heather and I, when we were working on these, we're in a rapid prototyping situation. No joke, like a few months to do several courses, and it just wouldn't have worked if the template hadn't been easy to use on the course development side.
Yeah, and Abigail makes a great point. if the template that you're using isn't accessible, or if it isn't strong, if it has some, jarring setbacks, that would be a pitfall if you're replicating that, aspect of that template in all the courses. Then you have, 40 courses that all have inaccessible tables or something. That would be bad. So, that is a good caveat, to make sure that the template that you're using is strong in structure and leads to a more accessible format for your learners.
That's a great point. You don't want to propagate that and then have to go and retouch every course again. Yeah. So, okay, so we're winding down. So we've tried a lot of highly structured examples today, right? Talking a lot about the structure of things. So one last thought we wanted to discuss was, what about unconventional or unstructured or student constructed courses that really don't have a highly structured form when the course starts, right? Because the students may be creating things and coming up with their own projects and things like that. So we left some questions here that you could think about. Basically, we'd like to think again about supports and structures that will help students succeed, and structures that will help students make the best use of their time. And so within your unstructured course or project-based course or whatever it may be, are there still things you could do to help students along that would save them time and help them get into meeting the course goals more quickly? So we've included some questions there about just making sure that they know where everything is, what they need to do, that sort of thing. Heather, you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, and pretty much any learning experience, good course design, good instructional design is the shape of that learning content. So regardless of how the dynamic of learners and instructors are in that space, whether it's online, whether it's in person, if it's unstructured, there's going to be more questions than, immediate answers that you could say, okay, we're all coming into this with the same level of preparation or the same level of knowledge into this situation. So we can be more focused on being, interactive and productive and getting where we need to be, instead of thinking about how to get there and how to do it and what am I doing. So it's more of a clarity issue to have that support structure to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're given the resources and tools we need to be successful.
So our final quote of the presentation. Michael Moore really describes this very well, I think. So you can read the quote there, and I just ask that you notice that it doesn't say highly structured, it says well structured. And so just what Heather was talking about, what do students need to be successful, and how can we stop them from being distracted or annoyed by other things and let them focus on the learning that needs to take place. And so where should students spend their time? What consistent design and structured elements will help students succeed? What can we as course designers and providers do to help them with their success?
Yeah, I think we can all agree that online learning shouldn't feel lonely, but it also shouldn't feel frustrating or, make it so I want to give up on that experience. So we know that this works to help our learners spend more time learning and less time fighting with technology or fighting with where to find things. So it helps us engage better as learners and as educators.
Right. And a balance. Yeah, it's the balance. I can give another example too. In grad school, I once received 3 pages of instructions on how to complete a 1-page assignment. It's possible to go the wrong way and put in too much structure, right? So the balance and thinking about what helps success, it really is the key.
Awesome. Any other questions? I know the chat has been incredibly robust, and I haven't been keeping up at all, but
I've been
I
glancing
really,
over every
yeah.
now and then.
I love the idea of, you know, having that solid foundation for structure, having a really strong scaffolding. And, you know, that could be in design, that could be in instruction, that could be in just the way that the website is set up for our online learners. You know, that builds better experiences. If I look at something and it's all caps, no punctuation, and I'm like, this, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read The Great Gatsby like this because it's all caps, no punctuation. And I tell my professor, Professor Erdman, why did you do this to me? It hurts my eyes. You know, I might have a different experience than reading The Great Gatsby with punctuation and with page breaks and paragraphs, because the way that information is being served to me is very different.
Yep. And we do have time for a few questions, I think, if anyone wants to jump in. Oh, yeah, and don't forget, we have our, I don't like looking at pictures of myself, so I'm holding my hand up in front of it. But yeah, but those are our Twitter handles. And follow us on Twitter, tweet about the presentation, and let us know what you thought.
Yeah, feel free to share the RISE if you can use it in your own institution. Yeah, just cover your Penny and I's faces when you get to this page.
I see it. What's the biggest hurdle in course design? I lost it.
Well, what is your biggest hurdle in making changes in unsuccessful courses?
Oh,
we've been really lucky at Worsham that our faculty are super gung-ho and they trust us, and we have a really great collaborative relationship. So right now we're doing a big overhaul on our accounting course, and it's great because we feel like partners in how we're going to make it more accessible, more inclusive, you know, including more representative images and video and all that stuff. So when we're overhauling the design of a course and saying, you know, this was too out of their reach or above their heads, and we have to take a look at not only the content, but really just what the course feels like when they enter it, and that restructurization is going swimmingly because we have such a great working rapport with them.
And I would answer that from a designer's point of view. Sometimes a barrier can be if the process isn't collaborative. And so, for example, if we're talking about what's going to go into a course as far as structure or support or something like that, and I have a recommendation, but the faculty member I'm working with, maybe I can't explain it well, or they don't understand where I'm coming from, or whatever reason, they kind of push back and say that they don't want to do that. Which is fine. It's their course and they have the final say, right? And so if we're not being as collaborative, that can be a barrier. But in situations like that, especially when we're talking about structure and templates, you are making design decisions. And so always do some kind of formative evaluation to validate those design decisions to make sure they're working. Right, so we can set up a course template, but if we never ask the students, hey, was this easy to use? Did you find all the stuff you needed to find? Did you feel supported by this course structure? We won't know if it's actually true or not. We'll just have the idea that we had at the start of the process. So definitely use formative evaluation to your advantage to validate all of your design models that you're creating.
Adam asked, what are some strategies to improve students' interaction within a course, even when well structured? Tying it back to structure real quick, I know all of the discussions in our courses have a 2-day window, and we try and stagger them across the course because we have so much control that we can say, well, I don't want everyone's assignments to be on Sunday. So I know that in anatomy class, Monday is when you post your part 1 to the discussion. Wednesday is when you have another due date to respond to a friend. For the cremation class, Tuesday is when you post part 1, And then Thursdays when you post your response to a friend. So we have some built-in structural things that help them pace themselves. And a lot of it has to do with like time management and student feedback that we've received where they're like, oh my gosh, too many things are due on Thursday. And that's the one day that I work, on call doing removals at night for my funeral. And can you please make that stop? And I'm like, yep, that was me. I didn't plat that out very quickly. So we try and make sure that across the courses, because they have a set menu of what courses they take with us, that we're spreading the love evenly among all the other due dates. So they have stuff due 7 days a week, but it's not all on the same day.
Yeah.
But yeah, Penny, do you want to talk about more how interaction can be encouraged and fostered in this learning experience?
Yeah, I think, well, in terms of structure, making sure that the expectations are clear, and Heather gave a great example about thinking about how long it takes to do something, because I know in the classroom, an activity could take one class period, but online you need to stretch that out. So are they doing individual work prior to participation in the discussion? So separating the individual work from the discussion and making them turn something in, make sure that they're prepared to participate in the discussion instead of starting the discussion without reading anything or starting the discussion without having done the research component or something. So separating it out into the components can help. And also, especially in group work, right? Group work, if you're letting students self-assign, that can take a lot of time. And if they're figuring out who's doing what, that can take a lot of time. So assigning people to groups and assigning them to specific roles. So maybe you have like 3 or 4 different perspectives of the same issue, and you assign them to the nurse practitioner, the administrator, the nurse supervisor, and the patient. Maybe they're working on those different roles. Or maybe if they're writing a paper, you have 2 researchers, 2 editors, and 1 final proofer. You're actually giving them assigned roles to participate. And so it's easy for them to just step in and start working instead of kind of floundering and not know, I don't know, I guess I could do this. Let's spend 3 days figuring out who's going to do what, and then 2 days actually doing the assignment, right? So you can use those kind of strategies as well. I hope that helps answer the question.
A lot of our group work, there might be a 2-week component where this week you're just working in your own group. And, for example, in like the microbiology class, they will be given a case and they do some role playing as if they're the pathologists trying to figure out what's wrong with this person. And then the second week, they report out their findings to the rest of the class. So it's just about managing that time and making sure that that's built in so they have enough time to work on it in small groups versus the findings and reportage component of the assignment.
Another thing that Worsham does is sometimes they build choice into the structure. And so students may have a choice of which assignment they're doing, which artifact they're producing to share in the discussion as a starting point, or they have a choice between participating in text, regular discussion forum, or making a video. So sometimes just having the choice of what they like to do makes it more interesting and gives them more agency.
We've learned a lot from these kind of conferences about voice and choice, universal design for learning, how to, foster that sense of agency. And that really has a huge impact on engagement, but that's a different talk.
And it happened the last hour. So if you didn't go, check it out.
Well, thank you all so much for the gift of your time and attention this afternoon. It's been awesome seeing the chat. I'm going to have to review it all.
Yeah, I'm going to save it so I can actually read through everything that happened.
Yeah, but we so appreciate you and so appreciate your engagement. Thank you so much. And feel free to reach out to Penny and I, because we're out there on Twitter.
Hit us up on Twitter. We're out. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We appreciate your participation. Yeah, see you all in Tucson.
Bring the QM gravy.
All right. Thanks, you guys. I'm stopping the recording now.